Welcome to Politically Unstable with Charles Hurt, Washington Times opinion editor. I'm your host, Andy Parks, and I'd like to remind you that you qualify for a 50% discount on an annual digital subscription to the Washington Times simply by going to washingtontimes.com/Andy. That's washingtontimes.com/ANDY. And now, as promised, Washington Times opinion editor Charlie Hurt. Hello, Charlie.
Hey, Andy. How's it going, buddy?
Just fine. Biden caught with his rusty drawbridges down. I got to admit, when you think this guy can't get any worse, he does.
How amazing. Did you see this thing? I think it was on Monday where he comes out selling his strange Green New Deal, which, by the way, it's really funny. Like, if you have somebody who works for you, and Joe Biden works for us, and they have completely destroyed the border. They have destroyed Afghanistan. They gave $90 billion worth of war equipment to our mortal enemies, and they can't offload ships at the California ports. And then they're like, you haven't given us enough money. I need $5.5 trillion to go fix all the drawbridges in the country. And then he starts explaining how drawbridges work. And he talks about how the problem is you need sledgehammers to get them to work. And you're just like, what planet is this guy on? How on earth is this in any way conducive to people saying, you know what, actually, I want to give this guy $5.5 trillion. It's insane.
It is crazy. His infrastructure bill has more than enough to fix the drawbridges. We could fix the problems of the infrastructure world if we took the climate change money out of the proposed $3.5 trillion Democratic spending spree. But there's more here. Biden wants to use the infrastructure bill to blame Donald Trump for the supply chain weakness.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you bring this up, because when you go back and you look at every single issue Democrats want to talk about right now, it's always an excuse for why they have failed to do something before. Critical race theory has to be taught in schools because Democrat politicians in charge of school districts all over this country, in particular in cities, have failed in those places, particularly African-American kids, have failed to pave the way to the American dream, which is through education. So what is the problem? It's not their fault. It's not that they've done a crappy job teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's everybody else's fault because they're actually racist, even if they're not racist, but they don't even know it because it's institutional and it's built in. So that's why they do this stuff. And so now climate change is a perfect example. Oh, everything is the fault of climate change. Why? Because Democrats in New York City, for 100 years, they have been in charge of New York City. It's the richest city on the planet. They get all the money they need, and they can't do anything about infrastructure. They have failed to fix any of their infrastructure for 100 years. 100% Democrats doing this. They have failed to fix infrastructure in their city. And now all their subway systems are getting flooded every time it rains because they have failed to keep up their infrastructure system. And so who's to blame? We're to blame. Somehow we have to now pay for their terrible infrastructure that they have not taken care of. New Orleans is literally below sea level. The vast majority of the time, there's no water in the streets. New York City is at least 5 feet above seawater. If you walk over to the Hudson, you look down, and heck, it's usually like 20 feet drop off into the river. Democrats have failed to maintain their infrastructure. They have video of water cascading into subway lines. And so what's the answer? Global warming. And it's all your fault, and you have to pay for it. Actually, it's not my fault. It's not global warming. It's you and all of your corrupt friends stealing tax money from the richest people on the planet. Leave us out of it. Thank you.
Yep. All right, I'm going to take it to another one of your columns, Wandering Lobotomized Obama Zombies Search for Hope and Change. Are they looking for the hope and change in the Build Back Better bill?
Yeah. How sad is this? So I mean, I know a lot of these guys and gals who work for Biden, and half of them trashed Biden early in the primary when they didn't think he would get the nomination. When, of course, obviously all along he was always going to get the nomination. They trash him, And obviously they work for him. Why did they work for him? They worked for him because they started out with Barack Obama. They all started with Obama. And so imagine this whole crew coming together. Obama's an empty suit. He's a probably kind of Marxist, thinks the government is the answer to everything, all that kind of stuff. But he's kind of this rock star. He's like legendary. And there are a lot of people who in the country who love him and still love him today. Obviously he got a little kind of nasty later on in his later years. But when you go back to that Barack Obama in 2008, he was a very appealing guy. Even outside of the Democratic Party, he appealed to people. Pluck out that Mick Jagger of a politician and plop in Joe Biden, and all these people are stuck with this guy. He's a terrible politician. He used to be unoffensive to people, and I thought that he would always be sort of unoffensive to people. He's just sort of a goofy old grandpa. He has screwed things up so badly in less than a year in the White House. He has screwed up things that we didn't think were possible to screw up. He has screwed them up so badly. People actually hate this guy. They hate him more than those crazies hated Donald Trump, to the point where, 4 new generations of hateful chants that spontaneously break out. People are doing rap songs about "Let's Go Brandon" as a way of pouring their hatred on this guy.
Yeah. Funny stuff, it really is. Hey, I wanted to ask you, because I watched the Obama speech the other day on behalf of Terry McAuliffe. And, to me, he was very smug, and it was just like, hey, I'm here, I'm the star, and I'm going to save this guy's butt, And I'm curious, your thoughts on the election next week.
I think that Glenn Youngkin is in an extremely good position to win. Obviously, let me just begin with one caveat. The Virginia of 2021 is different from the Virginia of 2009. So it's kind of hard to kind of make a perfect analogy here. But Barack Obama wins in 2008. He goes with Obamacare. And also, let's not forget, Obamacare was a dividing issue. Obviously, a lot of people hated Obamacare for very good reason, but there were also people who liked it. And there were people who liked it as much as the people that didn't like it hated it. So after 2009, obviously there's a massive rejection to the election of Bob McDonnell. And that was the last statewide race Republicans picked up in Virginia. Fast forward to today, and again, it's a different state. It's a lot bluer today than it was in 2009. But the vitriol towards the incumbent, being Joe Biden in this case, in the White House is so much more intense than it was in 2009. I've never seen anything like it. And not only is it really intense, but there is also a complete lack of enthusiasm for people who don't hate Joe Biden. With Obamacare and Obama, there were still people who had Obama's back and they loved Obamacare and stuff like that. So there was the enthusiasm. There's no enthusiasm for Democrat in Virginia right now. And the fact that polls show the Youngkin and McAuliffe neck and neck, I think proves beyond any doubt that Youngkin is ahead. This is another reason why Democrats are so desperate for early voting, because the earlier voting, the more voting that occurs earlier, the less informed people are on election day, when they cast their ballot. Obviously, if you wait until election day, everybody is fully informed. So Democrats want to sort of pack away as many of those votes before they're fully informed come election day as they can. And it'll be interesting. But if I were a betting man, I would bet Glenn Youngkin wins. And I think he could win very comfortably next week. And an interesting snapshot, I was talking to somebody who covers in pretty minute detail, who's telling me that when Barack Obama showed up in Richmond, he played at a university, and this is Barack Obama. Democrats still love this guy to death. He attracted 1,000 people, which is pretty big for a statewide race election rally, 1,000 people on a college campus in Richmond, Virginia. The same day, Glenn Youngkin appeared in an open field in Short Pump outside of Richmond. 3,000 people showed up for him.
How about that?
And obviously that does not tell you who wins or loses, but that says a lot about enthusiasm. Joe Biden is doing more for Glenn Youngkin than Republicans ever could.
Isn't that the truth?
Terry McAuliffe has managed to grab onto an issue that electrifies voters with this education stuff. And Obama can sit there and poo-poo it and laugh at parents and ridicule them for being concerned about this stuff all he wants. And he can get away with it because he's not on the ballot. He can mock them and ridicule them. But this is an issue that cuts across party lines in a big way. This reaches independents and it reaches Democrats. This is not a good issue for them. I think they're going to get burned worse on this than they did on the defund the police gambit that they went for.
I sure hope you're right. Charles Hurt, Washington Times opinion editor. No, not Charlie. Charles after that.
That's right. King Charles.
King Charles. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, buddy.
That'll do it for this week. Remember, you can read all of Charlie Hurt's columns at WashingtonTimes.com. I'm Andy Parks. Have a great day.